witches, I hope that you all are doing well. Blessed be the witches' BlackLent. I can't believe it's upon us again already. I feel like time has just gone so fast, and I wanted to go ahead and get a jump start on the BlackLent. So if you're not aware, Witches BlackLent is like a neo-witchy tradition that my friend and I, we kind of put together and started last year. So this is the second year of Witches BlackLent, which is essentially kind of like a subverted Lent, using ideas and powers of sacred ritual subversion, blasphemy, in order to create a powerful and enriching experience for us in our lives and in our practice. So the idea of BlackLent is that every week there is a challenge. So if you're watching this video on TikTok, you can go to the Witches BlackLent playlist. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can look under the community tab, or you can check out my Instagram and see the pinned post if you're interested in seeing what all of the challenges are. So the Lent ends March 28th, so it's practically like 6 challenges, 1 challenge a week. If you want to do more than 1 challenge per week, you can. Sorry, I'm getting over a cold, so my nose is like kind of runny. But if you want to do more than 1 challenge a week, you totally can. If you want to do 1 a week, that's kind of the way it's designed. But I mean, there's not really a whole lot of like rules to this. The idea of the BlackLent is to take a look at the 7 deadly sins, popularized from Dante's Inferno. This is taking sort of Christian fan fiction, like Dante's Inferno, and subverting it and looking at it from more of a left-hand path perspective. So the 7 deadly sins being lust, envy, greed, gluttony, wrath, right? And traditionally, we're often taught to think of the idea of sin and to think of these sins as negatives, as harmful actions. In the Witches BlackLent, instead, we are looking at sin as a way to harness and create power, basically. So last year I did lust. If you're interested in seeing my work with the sin of lust and how I found personal empowerment through working with lust, you can check that out on the Witches BlackLent playlist, like I mentioned earlier. So this year, week 1, right, is to basically research all of the 7 deadly sins and really get to know them. Spend time with them, and then pick one that you would like to work with. Now, the idea of this is not, I really like candy, I'm such a glutton, so I'm gonna pick gluttony, or, I really enjoy pleasure and adult consensual interaction, so I'm gonna pick lust. Like, whatever. You can pick your sin based off of that if you want to, but we're thinking about this more so from like a positive space, right? So for me, the way that lust helped me to kind of touch on that was like, as someone who is like an SA survivor, as someone with like really bad body dysmorphia and gender dysmorphia, like lust to me, I chose because it was a way for me to connect more with the flesh vessel that I am in. And it definitely did that. Lust made me feel a lot of very intense feelings. It was not as easy as I thought it would be. This year, I think I'm going to pick what's known as the oldest of the 7 sins, or the original sin, or even like sometimes attributed as the mother of sin, the oldest sibling of the 7, which is pride. Pride is thought to be a gateway to all other sins. And if you're familiar with Dante's Inferno, and if you're not, I suggest that you go check out Dante's Inferno and read up on it a little bit, because it's really interesting. One of the most severe layers of hell is where the prideful and like the heretics are kept. I think lust is like the second level, and they're constantly blown around in like windstorms. Very cool, very poetic. Love to see it. But pride is like one of the deadliest sins because it's linked with all other sins, and it's thought to be like such an offense to God, to Yahweh, to this war God, right? It's thought to be so offensive to think of yourself as even remotely equal, let alone higher than the divine, which in the left-hand path and through the path of apotheosis, we connect with God or deity internally, like we exalt ourselves to the status of living divine in order to connect to the divine within and around us. So I think pride is very spiritual, and I think it's very powerful. Now, can all of the sins, of course, be toxic and damaging to us? Yeah, of course. We already know that, though. We already know that, a foolish sense of pride or belittling other people as a way to uplift ourselves is toxic. We already know that. We don't need the BlackLent for that, right? And some of us already have enough Abrahamic trauma or family generational trauma that reminds us of that anyway. And really, if you think about it, working with sin in this subverted way is a really powerful way for us to liberate ourselves from, Abrahamic indoctrination, whether or not we grew up that way. If you're living in the States, chances are you're suffering underneath patriarchal Abrahamic rule in some way or another, right? Don't be too prideful. Don't forget who you are. You're nobody special. Don't be prideful. Don't be slothful. You need to get up and you need to work and you need to be productive in order to have value. Don't be lustful. Don't enjoy things out of life. Like, that's dirty and that's wrong. Like, don't be envious of what other people have. Be happy with what we've given you and don't ask for more. Do you see what I'm saying? Of how the concept of sin can be subliminally used to control people because they feel bad about themselves. They feel bad about pleasure and power. And so they guilt themselves out of taking what is rightfully theirs. Are you getting the vibe of the BlackLent? Because that's where this is going. So throughout the challenge, right, or throughout the BlackLent, there's different challenges, like making an incense or an oil that corresponds to your chosen sin, making an effigy, or creating a spirit vessel for your chosen sin. Because by the end of the BlackLent, you'll essentially have made a sin ritual for summoning the spirit of that corresponding sin and for siphoning its power, drinking its power in, imbuing yourself and charging yourself with sin. So I'm picking pride. As some of you know, I'm working on my extended Liber Spiritus, which is the book of spirits from my witchflight book. And I'm including all of the 7 sins in that spirit book. So I'm going to be really focusing on vanity sin, which is the sin of pride, and also working more closely with Lucifer, as Lucifer is a very traditionally correspondent spirit of the sin of pride, as Lucifer was, thought to have commit pride first, like as the OG baddie. So that's where I am with the BlackLent. Make sure that if you're participating, you use the hashtag #WitchesBlackLent, because at the end of this, my friend and I, who we made the BlackLent, we do a live stream called the Feast of Fiends, where we watch everyone's sin content. So please use the hashtag so I can follow along, and comment down below what you think. I would love to hear your thoughts on the BlackLent. I know last year there was some controversy around it. It's not everybody's cup of tea. That's perfectly fine. If you don't want to participate, if you don't like the idea of ritual subversion and blasphemy, you don't have to. If it gives you the ick because it feels too close to Abrahamic practice, you don't have to do it. Isn't that cool? I think that's pretty cool. If you don't like it, you don't have to participate. Yeah. So anyway, until next time, witches, blessed be, and I will see you all in hell.